is Joan Kelly.
I have handouts.
Yeah, you can just leave them there. We'll get them to
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to inform you about food insecurity in Winnebago County. Feeding America reports that 38,400 residents of Winnebago County are food insecure, including 13,240 children. That's 1 in 5 children in the county. The ongoing impact of COVID pandemic is causing continued food insecurity among our neighbors and challenges to the food bank. Some neighbors who lost jobs, especially in service industries at the start of COVID, have still not been able to return to work or are having to juggle more than one part-time job to make ends meet. Despite the current need for workers and employment opportunities, transportation and childcare can provide barriers for neighbors to accept jobs. On top of this, we have inflation and rising food and gas costs and are sending more people to seek food assistance from our network of food pantries and mobile markets. Together, the food bank and our member agencies have been serving an average of 33,000 people a month since last July. Unfortunately, the numbers are rising. In April, we served 40,565 residents. This is 20% above our pre-COVID levels. The food bank has 38 member pantries, shelters, and soup kitchens in the county, including our food bank run by the Winnebago Community Market. The network has distributed 7 million meals since the first 10 months of the fiscal year 2022. Neighbors that use Food Pantry Network have access to fresh produce, protein, dairy, and nutritious shelf-stable foods to relieve their budget and maintain healthy diets. Receiving food at no cost enables residents to use their limited income to pay essential bills for housing, utilities, transportation, and medical expenses and maintain safe and stable homes for their family. Rising food and freight prices are also impacting the food bank's ability to acquire as much food with available funds as before, and we are purchasing 25% of the food distributed now compared to 10% pre-COVID. Inflation and supply chain disruptions are causing increased costs and limiting choice and availability. A few examples include the avian flu continuing to drive up egg and poultry costs, and meat processors are working with limited staff due to labor shortages causing an ongoing shortage of protein. We are asking that the Winnebago County Board consider allocating some of the American Rescue Plan Act funds to the food bank to purchase food that would be available to all Winnebago residents and agencies with no fees. We invite you to visit our Winnebago County Market at the Northwest Center to see our work firsthand or to volunteer. The handout I'm providing tonight gives you a list of the 129 agency network and program sites in Winnebago County. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Our next speaker is Reverend Earl Dotson Sr.
The Bible. Then Jesus was led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. The Spirit led Jesus, as he leads us, into a searching of heart and its companion, testing. Here we see the nature of temptation is a fork in the road, the leading of the Spirit and the opportunity of the devil. And we must choose the chance to rise or fall. We are like steel, uncertain until tested. The world is watching as America is being tested regarding its mistreatment of its black citizens, whose slave ancestors built this country. Will its foundational racism cause it to rise or fall? In 2017, after the death of Eddie Patterson and Officer James Cox, 2017, the mayor of Rockford, at a meeting at Kingdom Authority Church, he said this, and he was quoted in the Rockford Register Star: "The violence must stop. We are fooling ourselves if we don't say we have a problem with racism. We do, and we need to use awful difficult times like this to aspire to something better." Every responsible observer states that poverty driven by racism, including the Catholic Bishop of Rockford, Bishop Doran, in 1994 said, "Address poverty, create jobs, and it will reduce the violence." What is the city and the county's plan? None. Such a plan does not exist. Our organization has one, but we are anathema to the racist ideologues who make political and economic decisions in this area. We are continuing to demand that Washington take punitive steps in this area to reverse this disgraceful racist phenomenon. Is America's democratic experiment headed for a collapse? Ponder this. When people like Representative Marjorie Greene calls for a national divorce, and many whites feel that they are losing their majority status and being replaced by immigrants and people of color. The devil's temptation. Civil war? Will America rise or fall?
Thank you. All right. We have two proclamations this evening. So I'm going to call up Board Member McCarthy, who's going to read the proclamation tonight, the first proclamation.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And good evening, everyone. Yes, those in the back with the Navy Club, please step forward. And accepted by Ship Number 1 Commander, this is for the Navy Club, Bob LeMay. Then we have Ann Church and also Debbie Larson along with Dawn Redmond, so maybe one of them is not here this evening here. Well, why don't you three step up here, please. So here we have a proclamation in recognition of the 100th anniversary of the Rockford Navy Club Ship Number 1, and that's of great importance for those of you who are a member of other Navy clubs throughout the country. Whereas Rockford Navy Club Ship Number 1 began operating in the year 1922 and has been in continuous operation since. And whereas the Rockford Navy Club, through much great effort, established an order known as the National Navy Clubs of America by drafting laws and creating a character, which was approved by the United States Congress in 1940, giving the Rockford Navy Club the name Ship Number 1, and thereby establishing Rockford Navy Club as the first Navy club in the United States. And whereas the Navy Club is a nonprofit private club having created a large scholarship fund for Rock Valley College students, awarding Navy Club wristwatches to the top candidates graduating from the Great Lakes Trading Academy, serving veterans from all the armed forces through a relationship with the Veterans Center, as well as serving the entire community through many auxiliary activities. And whereas Rockford Navy Club is celebrating 100 years of relationships with their fellow Navy, Marine, and Coast Guard members all year, and especially during their celebratory event on June 11th. And whereas it is historically fitting for this monumental anniversary for Ship Number 1 to be honored by the entire community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Kevin McCarthy, along with Chairman Joseph Shirelli of Winnebago County, do hereby proclaim June 11th, 2022, as the 100th anniversary of the Rockford Navy Club, Ship Number 1 in Winnebago County, and encourage all residents to recognize the longevity and significant contributions to the Rockford Navy Club Ship Number 1, as well as the entire service that Navy men and women have made cause of peace and freedom in our community, our country, and throughout the world. By the way, my father, Joseph McCarthy, served 3 years in World War II. He was a Navy seaman first class and 1 year in Korea. So in witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the County of Winnebago, Illinois, to be affixed the 26th day of May, 2022, by the chairman. So thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank the board and Mr. Chiarelli for inviting us here tonight. I think it's a big honor that we should be recognized for our 100-year anniversary. But these two beautiful ladies that are behind me, they're not related to me, but I want to tell you what the relationship is. Ann Church, am I fair to say the older lady? Ann Church was married, but to her husband, George Church, who passed away on March 29th of this year. And the reason they're here is to present to you the reason why the Navy Club is 100 years old. It was because of people like her husband, George, that was in the Navy, that joined the Navy Club in 1944. He was not only our oldest member, age-wise, he was 94, and he was a member of our club since 1994, which I think makes it 78 years. He and Ann were married in October of this year. They would have been married 71 years. So this is this beautiful lady here. And with that said, one person isn't here, but standing next to her on her right is her daughter, and she has a daughter also who couldn't be here tonight. She was a nurse, and she had nursed George while he was in his illness for the last few months, so she wasn't able to make it. But anyway, they're very important people in the Navy Club's lives. And I just wanted to tell you, this is what makes the Navy Club a family. It's people like this that are family, husbands, wives, children, grandchildren. Actually, Mr. Church, George, actually got to hold his great-great-granddaughter, who's only a couple of months old, just prior to his death. And we had a big party for him at the Navy Club, if you can even imagine that. I see some Marines out here, too. So, so anyway, we're really pleased to be here, but because the county board gave us something, I'd like to present Mr. Chiarelli. The Navy Club had made a 100-year anniversary challenge coin. Those of you that were in the service know what a challenge coin is, and simply what it is, so when you come and join the Navy Club, you'll be aware of this after tonight. So if you have a Navy Club challenge coin in your pocket, or a challenge coin, and you flip it onto the counter at the bar, maybe you're going to have a soda or whatever you're going to have, whoever you're talking to, if they don't have a challenge coin in their pocket, then they have to buy you a round, whatever you're drinking. But if they do, then you have to buy it. So I'd like to give Mr. Chiarelli in all honors for what you've done for us and what Winnebago County has done for us, a copy of this one coin. We only have a few of these that were printed, but it's a 100-year anniversary Navy Club coin. I'd like to present this to you, sir. And thank you very much. So come and join the Navy Club. You'd love it.
So I get challenged a lot, but I never received a coin for it. Thank you. All right, the next proclamation, I'm going to call up Board Member Feller. She's going to read the proclamation. It's going to be accepted by NAMI President David Gill, if you can come forward. NAMI Board Members Sue Schroeder, Eric Brown, Joan Lodge, and NAMI Executive Director Danielle Angelari. If you'd like to step forward. There you go.
In the proclamation of the recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month, Whereas mental health is part of overall health, and whereas mental health helps to sustain an individual's thought processes, relationships, productivity, and ability to adapt to change or face adversity, mental illness adversely affects those abilities and is often life-threatening in nature. And whereas 1 in 5 adults experiences mental health problems in any given year, and such problems can contribute to the onset of mental illness, 1 in 17 adults live with mental illnesses such as major depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia. And whereas approximately 1/2 of chronic mental illness begins by the age of 14 and 3/4 by the age of 24. And whereas long delays, sometimes decades, often occur between time symptoms first appear and when individuals get help, early identification and treatment can make profound difference in successful management of mental illness and recovery. And whereas it is important to maintain mental health and learn the symptoms of mental illness in order to get help when it is needed, and whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping end the silence and stigma that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help. And whereas public education and civic activities can encourage mental health and help improve the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness. Now therefore, be it resolved, Joseph V. Shirelli, Chairman of the Winnebago County Board, does hereby proclaim May 2022 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Winnebago County and encourages all citizens to rally support for all individuals affected by mental illness. To David Gill.
That's okay. All right. Well, I am deeply honored to get this award or this recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month. It is it's a monumental thing to deal with mental illness, and I've been on the board now for 9 years for NAMI. And NAMI has been in existence for 40 years in Winnebago County. And NAMI is the National Alliance of Mental Illness. And what we have learned, what we've discovered, what we've become to appreciate over time is the impact of mental illness on the community. As it was noted, 1 in 5 know somebody that are profoundly affected by mental illness, whether it's that person, their family, their friends. It leaves a lasting mark on people, but it also has hope. And what we offer as an organization is not only hope, but we offer advocacy, support, education to try and bring awareness to the issue, to end the stigma that's associated with it, so that not only the people that are directly affected, but their friends and their family can begin to recover, because everybody that's affected by it in some way has to recover from this issue. So I thank you. I'm sorry that I didn't know we were supposed to bring gifts. I didn't bring any gifts, but I greatly appreciate this, and I just want to let our executive director, Danielle Angelieri, speak a few words too, please.
I'm going to be short and sweet. Thank you guys for having us back again. We really appreciate it. I don't know if you guys have seen, because it is Mental Health Month, we've had a challenge out in the community, just one thing a day to bring your mental health to the forefront of your awareness. I don't know how many people do that during the day, but today's actually was when you're engaging with someone to give them your full attention. I mean, I think you can think back during your day, you're kind of having a conversation, you're not really paying attention. I mean, we're all kind of busy, right? But to truly listen, I think that's a lot of the time what people really need. And I want to thank you all for truly listening to the community's needs. Mental health is a very basic need. We all have mental health. We might not all have mental illness, but I know that we all love someone with a mental illness. And I just want to reiterate to take care of yourselves, to take care of your loved ones. We're kind of all in this together. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to number 6 of our agenda. It's the approval of minutes. Can I entertain a motion to approve the April 28th, 2022 minutes and lay over the May 12th, 2022 minutes. Motion by Ms. Feller, second by Mr. Westcott. Is there any discussion on the minutes? All right. Are there any board members opposed to that motion? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present, please. Number 7 is our consent agenda. Can I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the raffle report and the auditor's report? Ms. Crosby motions, and a second by Mr. Hoffman. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to that motion to approve? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Number 8 is appointments per county board rules. The board chairman appointments require a 30-day layover unless there is a suspension of the rule. Tonight I'm placing up Winnebago Fire Prevention District. Compensation is $1,500 a year, and that's Mr. Charles W. Myers Sr. It is a reappointment. Okay, we'll move on to reports of standing committees. First committee is the Finance Committee. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee has 3 items tonight. The first one is a resolution establishing the salary for the Winnebago County Sheriff, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by Mr. Hoffman. Discussion? Mr. Salgado?
Yeah, just real quick, this is state statute that now it's kind of mandated, but it's being funded by the state 66% and then 33% by the county, so there's some savings there. And the salary can't be more than 80% of the state's attorney's salary. So that's pretty much in a nutshell.
Very good. Any board member discussion? Hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our next item is ordinance amending the annual appropriation ordinance to account for deferred prosecution grant. This is to be laid over, but I'd like to suspend the rules and vote on this today.
Moved by Mr. Salgado to suspend the rules, second by Ms. Fellers. Are there any board members opposed to the suspension of rules? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'd like to move and approve ordinance amending the annual appropriation ordinance to account for the deferred prosecution grant.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by Ms. Fellers again. Ms. Fellers? Second? Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, just real quick, this is just a grant, budget amendment essentially from, not a budget amendment, but or an ordinance for that in the amount of $1,037,969.
Very good. Any board member discussion? Hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to this ordinance? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Yes, our last item is our ordinance amending the budget to fund 501 copier lease buyout. This is to be laid over, but I'd like to vote on this tonight and suspend the rules.
Moved by Mr. Salgado to suspend the rules, second by Mr. McCarthy. Are there any board members opposed to the suspension of rules? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. The rules are suspended. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move and approve ordinance amending the budget for Fund 501 copier lease buyout.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by Mr. Hoffman. Is there any discussion?
Pretty much the buyout is in the amount of $410,548, and then $88,000 going out to Gordon Flush Inc. So it's about a $500,000, give or take.
Very good. Any board member discussion? Hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to this ordinance? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Yeah, just final note too, this week we had a joint caucus going through the different items for Phase 4, the classifications for that, so just stay tuned. The next part of it is that we're going to wait for the consulting for Phase 2 and Phase 3 potentially to kind of look at this once we get the consultant that can review those projects. The other piece of it is that we are going to continue to rank those. You know, there's more information to come out, but we got to figure out, with Mr. Rickard advised of potentially having a meeting and have them present. But I'd like to provide, there was a request, a 1 or 2 sentence for each project, so everybody understands what those projects are, so we can start ranking those and kind of move forward for that $4 million phase 4 on that piece. So just wanted to give an update on that, what the next process is.
Very good, thank you.
And that concludes our report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salgado. Our next committee is the Zoning Committee. Mr. Webster.
Thank you. Your zoning committee has 3 items on the agenda this evening for a read-in. One is Z0122 is a map amendment, and that is in County Board District 9. This one pertains to the request from Winnebago Landfill Company. Number 2 is SU0222, and this is a special use permit for an outdoor recreation for hunting grounds and a lodge. And this is County Board District 2, which that'd be my district. This comes with approval with conditions from the Zoning Board of Appeals and Zoning Committee. And number 3 is associated with that special use as well. And that is also for a hunting lodge and grounds. And that comes with approval from both the Zoning Board of Appeals and Zoning Committee, once again with conditions. So all 3 of these are in for the first reading, but I'd like to make a motion to suspend rules and vote on all of them this evening.
We have a motion by Mr. Webster to suspend the rules, a second by Mr. Tassoni, I believe.
Okay, so then I would move to approve.
We got to vote on the suspension. So are there any board members opposed to suspend the rules this evening? Hearing none, please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Webster.
Okay, then I would move to approve the first one, number 1, Z0122.
Moved by Mr. Webster to approve number 1. That's the zoning map amendment. Is there a second by Mr. Sweeney? Discussion. Any discussion on the board members this evening on item number 1 for zoning? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this map amendment this evening? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Webster.
Thank you. The next is number 2 is SU0222. Once again, this comes to you with conditions, and I would move to approve SU0222.
Moved by Mr. Webster for the special use permit, second by Mr. Sweeney. Any discussion? Ms. Red.
Thank you, Chairman. What are the conditions?
Mr. Webster, do you have the conditions?
There's 20 conditions. I would ask Mr. Krupp to read the 20 conditions if you'd like to hear them.
Mr. Krupp.
Would you like me to read all of them, or would you rather me provide you a copy of them?
I don't know if the other board members know what the conditions are, but I don't know. So I'd like to hear what they are so they can hear what they are.
Okay. Number 1, the special use for outdoor recreation is only for enabling the legal defined area to be used as a hunting ground with a hunting lodge inclusive of traditional accessories. More specifically, the special use shall be used and developed in substantial conformance with the applicant's site plans by R.K. Johnson Associates, date stamped 05/04/22. The special use shall also be used and developed in substantial conformance with the applicant's close-up site plan by R.K. Johnson Associates, date stamped 05/05/2022. The primary building, also known as the hunting lodge, shall be located fully out of the 100-year floodplain. The approval of the special use is not meant to restrict the use of the site as permitted by the underlying zoning. Number 2, the hunting lodge shall be constructed in substantial conformance with the applicant's elevation plan and floor plan by Lester Buildings, both date stamped 05/06/2022. The bottom 3 feet of the subject building's front facade shall consist of brick. Number 3, the hunting lodge may consist of a check-in area, lounge area, restrooms, bird game cleaning area, equipment and vehicle storage area, and other traditional accessory uses, but shall not include overnight accommodations. Number 4, new pine tree screening lines as illustrated on the close-up site plan referenced in condition number 1 shall be installed prior to final inspection, occupancy of the primary building on site. Evergreens shall be no less than 6 feet in height at time of installation, and quantity of said trees shall be of an amount and spacing that creates a 75% screening within 10 years of planning. Number 5, the special uses business hours of operation are limited to September 1st to April 15th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. Number 6, hunting shall be limited to shotguns. Number 7, hunting shall be limited to steel shot. Likewise, the accumulation of spent ammunition shot shall be responsibly managed to minimize environmental impacts. Number 8, this permit does not authorize a shooting range or clay target shooting on site. Number 9, although this permit allows accessory pens per condition 1 for the raising and housing of pheasants, quail, and other fowl that will ultimately be used for hunting, this permit does not authorize a dog kennel or caging of any other animals on site. Number 10, alcoholic beverages are prohibited on site. Number 11, the perimeter of the site shall consist of warning signs no larger than 2 square feet in area, advising potential trespassers that the area beyond the posted point is a private active hunting grounds whereby only authorized personnel is allowed beyond such point. Number 12, although signage may be installed in accordance with Article 22 of Chapter 90, the Winnebago County Code, it shall hereby be restricted to only non-illuminated signage. Number 13, temporary sanitary facilities are not allowed on site. Number 14, outdoor storage of maintenance equipment and other miscellaneous items is prohibited on site. Number 15, any dumpsters, if desired, used in conjunction with the special use shall be enclosed by a solid wood, vinyl, or masonry fence not less than 5 feet in height nor higher than 6 feet, and shall not be located in the 100-year floodplain, required front, side yards, and not within 6 feet of any other lot line. Number 16, a seasonal use, if authorized, the special use permit allowing the seasonal use of the subject property per section 23.8.4 of Chapter 90 may be granted hard surface relief. As such, relief is hereby granted to allow gravel surface for the parking lot area and affiliated driveway aisles with regards to the special use permit subject to the following subconditions. Substantial conformance with the site plans referenced in condition 1, subject parking areas, drive aisles, and access drives shall be maintained in a way to prevent dusting, rutting, mud, and excessive weed growth. Should dusting, rutting, or mud start to occur in subject parking area, damaged surface shall be repaired immediately, and best efforts should be performed to minimize said during the use of the parking areas. Mud shall not be deposited from the subject property onto the public right-of-way. In the event mud is accidentally deposited on the public right-of-way, the owner shall clean the road within 24 hours of occurrence. And should the subject special use herein noted for the subject property become null and void, then relief herein subject to this condition shall become null and void as well. Number 17, Winnebago County zoning staff shall be allowed to complete a compliance inspection with regard to any conditions herein noted or any other county regulations involving the special use permit. Number 18, the special use shall obtain all the appropriate permits and relevant inspections. Number 19, the special use shall be in compliance with all applicable federal, state, and local statutes, ordinance, codes, rules, and regulations unless a variance is granted by the appropriate governing body. Number 20, the special use permit shall expire, become null and void 15 years from the date of approval. And then with regards to the other special use, all the conditions are the same with the exception of number 1, and I'll read that for you as well. Number 1, the special use permit for outdoor recreation is only for enabling the 100-year floodplain zone, Zone AE, within the legally defined area to be used as a hunting grounds. More specifically, the special use shall be used and developed in substantial conformance with the applicant's site plans by R.K. Johnson Associates dated May 4th, 2022. The special use shall also be used and developed in substantial conformance with the applicant's close-up site plan by R.K. Johnson Associates, date stamped 05/05/2022. The primary building, also known as the hunting lodge, shall be located fully out of the 100-year floodplain. The approval of the special use is not meant to restrict the use of the site as permitted by the underlying zoning. Thank you.
Thank you. What is the address of that building?
It has a generic address, XXXX North Oliver Road. It has not been assigned a formal address because a building permit has not yet been issued for the site.
All right, thank you, Mr. Krupp.
More specifically, Dorothy, it's the very south end of my district, Dead End Road.
Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My wife was sending me a really important message.
Mr. Krupp.
Just kidding.
He said no. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And in the future, Mr. Webster, is it, I mean, I was looking and browsing, but I don't know because we've suspended the rules, maybe we just didn't see it. But that information is related to board members in some fashion that we can get it on our own, is it not?
Yes, all of the zoning information is always available to all board members. It's public information for all of us. Troy sends you an email, and it has all the information I have at committee, you have. You're welcome to look at that at any time. All the conditions are on there always. Speaking of conditions, we only have conditions, once again, when they're special uses. We don't have conditions on map amendments. So, in other words, the first one, there was no conditions. But the second two, there are conditions. But once again, you get the email information, and you can click onto that. There's a link there for you to get everything that I get. So, and otherwise, if you have any questions, you can always call me or call Troy. He likes to read to you, so. So with that, I think we're back to, was it SU 0222 that we're on?
Yes, SU 0222. Is there any other questions or comments on this special use permit? Are there any board members opposed to this special use permit? Hearing none, please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Webster.
Okay, number 3 is SU 0322. It's a special use permit, once again, for the same place, same address, and once again, 20 conditions, only one of them being different, and Troy just read that to you.
So moved by Mr. Webster, second by Mr. Sweeney. Any discussion? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to the special use permit? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Webster.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The next Zoning Board of Appeals meeting is June 8th, and following that, the next Zoning Committee meeting is June 22nd, 2022. And we have a couple of interesting items for you then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. All right, Economic Development Committee. Mr. Westcott, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, sir, I do, and we're going to have we don't have a meeting or a Economic Development Committee meeting until next week, so.
Very good.
But thank you.
Thank you. Operation and Administrative Committee, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got 2 items for this evening. The first item is a resolution to change hours of the county clerk's office on 2022 election days, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, second by Ms. Red. I saw your hand first. Discussion?
Nope.
No? Any discussion from board members? All right, hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is a resolution authorizing the county administrator to hire a project consultant for county construction projects, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. Sweeney. Any discussion? Ms. Fellers.
I just have a quick question for the administrator. What is the procedure for hiring an outside consultant? Is this something that goes out for bid, or is it a job posting or a
We'll prepare an RFQ, request for qualifications for engineering consultants, and That RFQ is in preparation mode right now, and I plan to present it to the Operations Committee at their meeting next week.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Arena?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If you can unmute your speakers, if they are muted, just a reminder.
I think it's on. There was some conversation in committee about who this individual would report to or this firm would report to. I had a conversation with Mr. McDonald about clarifying that, and so I would like to move that we amend this resolution by adding at the end of paragraph 5 the words, "And the project consultant shall report to the Operations and Administrative Committee as necessary," and at the end of paragraph 6 to add the words, "And the project consultant shall report to the Operations and Administrative Committee as necessary."
So Mr. Arena moves to amend the resolution. Is there a second by Mr. Schultz? Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to that amendment to the resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. So now, back to your original motion.
Yes, sir.
To approve by Mr. McDonald, second by Mr. Arena to approve the original motion, I believe, or was it Mr. Sweeney? Mr. Sweeney, okay. Second that motion. Is there any discussion on the amended resolution? Very good. Is there any board member opposed to the amended resolution before you? Very good. Please cast a yes vote for all members present. Thank you. Mr. McDonald.
That concludes the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Public Works, Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members. Public Works brings forth 3 resolutions this evening. First item up for passage is Resolution 22-018. It's a resolution authorizing the award of a bid for the 2022 MFT General Maintenance by Roscoe Township. I would so move and speak to it.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni, second by Ms. Fellers. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. This is just pass-through funds the county highway department administers for the townships. No cost to the county.
Very good. Any further discussion? Are there any board members opposed to the resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. Next item is Resolution 22-019. It's a resolution authorizing the highway department to lease 5 light-duty vehicles as part of the master lease agreement with Enterprise Trust, and I would so move.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni, second by Mr. Huffman. Discussion? Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. Our final resolution is 22-020. It's a resolution to requisite permission from IDOT for intermittent closure of Illinois Route 75 for GFNY, which is Grand Fondo, New York, for a cycling event on August 7th, and I would so move.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni, second by Ms. Fellers. Discussion. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. And like I say, I think most of us have heard about this. I'm not a cycler myself, but I've heard a lot of reviews from people I know that says this is a huge event for our area. It's August 7th. I think the takeoff point is the Venetian Club on Elmwood Road. And what I'm hearing is a lot of people are excited about it, and it's a one-of-a-kind event that I think we have upwards of a 3-year contract with them to have it here in Winnebago County. And the cycling community is very excited about it.
Very good. Any further discussion? All right. Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. That concludes the report.
Thank you. Public Safety and Judiciary Committee, Mr. Brad Lindmark is going to be chairing the committee report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Safety Committee has one item, a resolution approving agreements for deferred prosecution program, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Lindmark, second by Mr. McCarthy. Discussion, Mr. Lindmark.
I have none.
No discussion. Any discussion by board members? All right. Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Thank you. Mr. Lindmark.
Had one other item. I had asked Chairman Gurl to report on the federal inmate income for April. That income was $413,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindmark. Okay, moving on here. We'll move on to unfinished business. Tonight there are the appointments that were read in on April 14th, 2022. And those are the Four River Sanitation Authority, Mr. Elmer Jones. It's a reappointment. Next is the Harlem Roscoe Fire District Board. It's a reappointment for Mr. Bart Munger. Next is the Otter Creek Lake Utility District. That is also a reappointment for Mr. Ronald Waldschmidt. The next is North Park Water District. That's also a reappointment for Ms. Carol Lamb. Next is the New Milford Fire Protection District. It's also a reappointment for Julie Dodd. The next is the Northwest Fire Protection District. It's also a reappointment for Mr. Gregory Gill. The next is the Durand Sanitary District. It's a reappointment of Mr. David Bliss. The next is the Board of Review. That's also a reappointment for Mr. Thomas Ewing. I place those up for, is there, entertain a motion by Mr. Salgado, second by Mr. Sweeney and Ms. Goro. Any discussion on any of these appointments before you? We'll just place them all up for Ms. Fellers.
I have a question for item H. Is the compensation listed as $27,809.86? Is that accurate, or is that a typo?
That is correct. Yep, that's for the Board of Review. Any other discussion on any of the appointments? All right. Are there any board members opposed to these appointments? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Thank you. New business. Is there any new business before the board? Ms. Crosby?
Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I raised tonight with a serious matter that has been brought to my attention by constituents and voters. I do not raise this concern idly. It is a matter of ethics and good government. In my career, I supervised the discipline of every real estate licensee in the state of Illinois. So unethical agent behavior is something I recognize easily. I have contacted experts in the field of conflict, including government academics, attorneys, other elected officials, and our parliamentarian trainer on Robert's Rules. The point has been raised that being the authorized agent for a lobbying entity is not actually a lobbyist. The facts disagree. An agent acts on behalf of and directs, sets the agenda, and is otherwise empowered to lobby and can appoint others to lobby. In any case, I believe the bias is very clear. An agent owes a duty to whom the agent works. An individual county board member owes certain duties to the county board as well as to voters. When these duties are competing, who will the board support or choose? This is the problem, and that it's clear there should or is a conflict. It is not a matter of what's legal, it's a matter of what's ethical. While it may be legal to be a lobbyist on the board, it doesn't make it right to vote on issues that they lobby for. This is not a hypothetical. The voters that reached out to me immediately pointed out the proposed apartment project in Roscoe. The project has divided the community and led to a tie vote at the Roscoe City Council. Now that the project comes to the county, whether the board votes on it or not, to me is irrelevant, because the concern is the board may influence staff. Moreover, there may be votes on requested variances and other related permitting issues relating to economic development matters, adjacent zoning, and other possibilities. I ask my fellow board members not to look the other way on this just because it's hard and politically inconvenient. The county board and our voters have been through a lot. FBI investigations, multiple embezzlements, a former purchasing director going to jail, the county sending money to a Nigerian prince, the coroner literally stealing money from the dead. I don't blame the voters at all for being concerned when they find out one of our board members is a registered lobbyist. We must set a better example, and that is why I ask you to join me in strengthening our ethics ordinance. So, Mr. Chairman, I move this subject in a draft resolution to be placed on the agenda for the Economic Development Committee and the Operations and Administration Committee to be reviewed. I also request our state's attorney to review our ethics ordinance to find if there's any conflict of interest language currently present and can it be strengthened. And I would like to add this to the ethics ordinance. For any member of the county board who is registered with the Secretary of State as part of a lobbying entity or as agent for the lobbying entity, a conflict of interest exists for those subject matters intended to lobby, and that the county board members shall be recused from those matters until such time as their affiliation with the lobbying entity terminates, and I so move.
I don't believe we need to vote on sending something to committee. Is that correct, Ms. Vaughn?
Correct. Thank you, Chairman. So, Ms. Crosby, are you just proposing that a ordinance be considered and drafted to be forwarded to committee?
I'm asking two things.
Okay.
I'm asking that you review our current ethics ordinance for conflict of interest language. I have reviewed it and can't find it. So maybe I missed it. So I just want to make sure that a second set of eyes can look at it. And if it's not there, to draft language to strengthen when we have a conflict of interest, and to add the language which I specifically read to that ordinance and bring it forward to the Economic Development Committee and the Operations Committee for discussion, review, and approval.
Okay, thank you.
Understood. Thank you. So there's no board action. No board action tonight. Mr. McDonald.
My point of order, once again, not involve economic development, it would be operations.
I can answer that, if I may.
Ms. Crosby and then Ms. Vaughn.
The only reason is, my concern is that if it goes just to operations, it won't get placed on the agenda. I requested an RBO resolution be sent forward a couple weeks ago, and it hasn't surfaced. So my concern is that I want to make sure that this is discussed and reviewed. And I'm very uncomfortable with it just going to operations because the RBO has not come forward.
Thank you. Ms. Vaughn?
Thank you, Chairman. So similarly to the previous discussion we had about a month ago, when it comes to amendments to ordinances, that typically falls under Operations and Administrative Committee. As far as the responsible bidder ordinance, that's still being reviewed by staff. That's why it hasn't moved forward yet. It's not because it's just at a standstill. We're just reviewing it additionally, and then it's going to move forward. So it'll be my recommendation that this proposed changes to our ordinance goes to Operations and Administrative Committee because it's within the organizational structure of that committee.
I still want it to go to both. Put my foot down, sorry. Take a gun and shoot me.
Well, there's no action taken tonight, so that discussion can be taking
Correct.
place more. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That just brings to mind a question of mine that maybe at this time we can get some legal advice on that. Who or what is the determining factor on what resolution or ordinance goes to what committee? Is it just our bylaws, or is it because someone said so?
Mr. Tassoni, thank you. Ms. Vaughn.
Thank you, Chairman. So this county board passed the organizational structure for which items go before each committee. And within each committee, it tells you what your functional responsibilities and duties are. So that's how we kind of determine which goes to which committee.
Okay, and if I could, do myself or any other board member have the authority to say, no, we want it to be otherwise?
You can amend your rules that they haven't been amended since, I think, December is when this was passed, December of 2020. So the
But
rules
that would
will
take
have-
an amendment of this board, not just because I want it to be.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Mr. Arena?
Mr. Tassoni, we can suspend the rules. Right? So it's just a rule like any other. So if we decided as a board that we wanted the budget to go to economic development, we could just do something like that. Is that not correct?
If we want to, sorry, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. So if you would like to suspend the rule, I would have to find which one it is, because the specific rule says you have to refer the item to the appropriate committee. And in this case, this proposed ethics ordinance, the Economic Development Committee would not be the appropriate committee. So if the board wants to suspend the rule, it's also not on the agenda, which was another issue that came up a month ago. So it will be my recommendation that the item be placed on the agenda for consideration under new business to be voted on, because the county board was not open to that last time without it being on the agenda.
And I'm not suggesting that we should do it. I'm just saying that I think that any of our rules can be suspended at any time is my understanding. But
And the intent of my discussion is to let it be known that no one on this board in casual substance can just say where they want a resolution or ordinance to be assigned to.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Anything further, Ms. Vaughn?
No, Chairman.
All right. Okay, any other new business in front of this board? Ms. Red?
Thank you, Chairman. It's not new business, but I just wanted to thank the county board members and administration that went on tour with us yesterday of District 18.
Very good. A very good tour, very enlightening. Thank you, Ms. Red.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to say I will follow up with you, Ms. Crosby, on the language and drafting the proposed ordinance. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Webster?
Regards to what Ms. Crosby is saying there, to me, this comes across as some sort of witch hunt. I'm actually appalled, disturbed that she would even make these accusations. I'm going to tell you what, when it comes to this lobbying, we all lobby. You lobby. Gene, you lobby yourself. In your propaganda for your election, you're lobbying to be elected. You know, Booker lobbies constantly on law enforcement. We all appreciate that. We all back law enforcement, okay? So Dorothy lobbies for minorities. We all listen to that, okay? Myself, I lobby for agricultural needs and that. And then we vote on things that have to do with agriculture. We vote on things that have to do with law enforcement. We vote on things for issues of hiring and so forth. Steve and Jaime, we look to them for advice and so forth when it comes to finance issues. All of us in our own personal lives, just about every one of us, have had some kind of a full-time job somewhere where we have something to contribute from the basis of experience in that field. And so you have experience in real estate, and we've heard you talk about real estate issues before. And so once again, you were lobbying about something that you had a background in, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that, okay? Joe has lobbied to us before about juvenile justice and about what happens out of the juvie system. We appreciate Joe's background on that, okay? And so all of us have done some kind of lobbying. Hell, that's what politicians do, for crying out loud. And so to make those kind of accusations, I think, are very disingenuous, very disturbing, and I don't know whose agenda that you're working for, but I think it's wrong. I think it's shameful. You want to use the word unethical. I think what you did tonight was unethical. And I think you had a bias to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Any other new business in front of the board? Okay, announcements and communications. Clerk?
The items listed below were received as correspondence.
Very good, thank you. Any other communications from board members? None? Staff members? Mr. Chris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On your desk, you'll see there is a updated ARP project for county board initiatives. If there's anything that's missing or you have questions about it, please reach out. That's our up-to-date draft so far. So if there's something that doesn't seem to be on there or you're wondering where it's at, reach out to me or Jazz, and we'll look into it and get to the bottom of it. But thank you.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Chris. All right. Yes, Mr. Arena.
Dornbush, so when will these allocations start going? They'll go through economic development, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, so they're off to Baker Tilly. The ones that are in green, because we have all the documents needed for them and signatures and so forth. Once Baker Tilly gives us the okay, they'll come back, we'll draft resolutions for the programs, and then we'll run them through Economic Development Committee and then County Board for approval.
They'll hit economic development, you're thinking about a month?
Depends on when we get them back from Baker Tilly.
Could be longer?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I just in case we're asked by the people we're contributing to.
I'm hopeful they'll be back in a month.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any other communications? No? Mr. McCarthy? Very good, yes. Please take time to remember and honor our fallen service men and women who served our country. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Sweeney and Mr. Westcott. Anybody opposed to adjournment? Very good. We are adjourned. Thank you.